Destiny of Manufacturing podcast. I am your host, Dean Phillips, and I want to thank you all for being here today live from the show floor at FABTECH 2025. I have with me the marketing manager of Wilson Tool and Die, Jeremy Edson.
Thank you, Dean.
Great to have you here. And
Good to be here.
Not to belittle it, but you are also the head of the Tool and Die division.
I'm something in the Tool and Die division, director, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But it's a great group of guys that we get to all be a part of, and I'm excited to be a part of that group. So.
Yeah. So you guys had a meeting yesterday. How do you feel it went? And
yeah, yesterday's meeting, there was a group of guys came in. There was I'll be 17, 18 of us that went in there. We had Omar from inside the Beltway.
Yep.
Did about a 30, 40-minute presentation with us, giving us an update from Washington, and the guys really picked up on a lot of what's resonating with everybody, right? It's the tariffs, the steel surcharges, the uncertainty really was the big conversation. Not so much what's happening with the tariffs, but the uncertainty of what's happening with the tariffs more than anything else, because it's hard to see what's happening in the industry when people are not sure what's going on. You're going to wait. You're going to, pull the trigger on some stuff, but it's like, if you're going to have a tariff this month, but not next month, maybe I'll wait.
Yeah.
So that uncertainty question was really resonating with everybody.
Yeah.
But overall, good group to talk around. We had a lot of open conversations and worked a lot on the labor issues, right? What do we have? What's happening with the workforce these days? It's been a shift, has been AI picking up stuff, the younger generation coming in. A lot of younger generation for last 20, 30 years hasn't been coming into the industry.
Right.
They've been sent off to college, one way, shape, or form, whether it's the parents or the school or their visions themselves. But I think that a little shift right now going on back into the trades and getting into the tech schools and getting into the apprenticeship programs.
Yeah.
I think we had some guys in. We're talking about the apprenticeship programs throughout their organizations and how much of an effort they're really putting towards growing that around the areas. Especially in the Michigan, Ohio areas.
Mm-hmm.
That's where obviously a lot of die builders are.
Yeah, they are.
They've been working really hard to grow that, backfill the labor pool.
Right.
Knowledge will be leaving us probably in the next 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't rely just on technology to allow us to move forward.
Right.
You got to rely on that hands-on skills, that experience to make sure we're doing the right things for the industry, and then bringing it back in here. We talked a lot about reshoring.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's happening from that perspective? What does that mean from a die build perspective? And you still have to compete with the LCCs. And how do you do that when you're not certain what's going to come next, right?
Yeah.
Or pulling the trigger on a lot of things. So it's like, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But it was a good meeting overall. I think great conversations. Everyone did a really good job speaking their mind, which was, I love that, right? It's good to hear everyone's voice instead of just one or two. Yeah, sit here and talk for an hour if you want me to, or 2 minutes. And everyone there did the same thing. They all held their own conversationally and had really good talking points from everybody, and a wide variety of individuals and a wide variety of different tooling presented to that meeting. So
yeah, I mean, we had everything from very small tool and die shops to very large tool and die shops.
And OEMs.
And OEMs, of course. And that's a big difference, I think, for a lot of people to understand, is that, and if you want to be part of the tool and die division, please reach out to me. You can reach out to me, Dean Phillips, or D Phillips at the Precision Metal Forming Association, just PMA.org. So you can just reach out to me, and I could get you hooked up, and Jeremy can get in touch with you, and we can try and find a way to include you in this group, because it's important to have enough people in there to have a critical mass. We had talked about this yesterday, that having a voice in Washington, we make assumptions that Washington knows all about what we do, and that is really not true. So we have to be out there banging the drum constantly, letting them know, hey, we're here, this is what we do. We make vehicles run in some instances. Sometimes we make hearts continue to move.
Right. Right. And it's not just small, everybody, if 2 or 3 people are talking about it, it's not going to be enough. And it's, as the wave grows and more people are talking about it, you get recognized and then get heard. And yeah, it's a great talking point for for the president to be talking about reshoring and bringing things in here. But what does that really mean for the industry? If we're not raising our voice and saying, well, we need to have these concessions or these adjustments made to help grow and be able to support the industry. I mean, apprenticeship programs, education, now, I mean, that's getting people just only and that starts not at the tech school, not at after, it starts in junior high and high school. We had a lot of conversation with that about, okay, we need to be letting these kids see what's available. I mean, it is a lot happening. And we had one guy yesterday talking about how the trades have changed, right? 20, 30 years ago, tool makers were making, or that was the industry to get into. I mean, it was the trade to be a part of because that was top dollar. You had a great environment. You had a lot of control over what was going on with your work, and you didn't have an expense to go to college. Your school was paid for through your apprenticeship program. So right. But now the other trades are, they have better abilities to raise their wages because they're not fighting the LCCs. They're fighting, their competition is within the domestic markets. So they can change along with and raise their prices because everyone's raising their prices. Whereas we're competing against other countries, and it makes it difficult for the die builders to raise their wages, which is hard to make it competitive in that industry for people to want to do that. So it takes a lot going back into the high school, showing them what it means, showing that there's more than just, that 1960s look and feel of everything. And we thought we would have gotten past that by now, but I don't think the high schools have.
Right.
I mean, you look at some of the high school shops, they're gutted too. I mentioned my son is a tech ed teacher, and it's, he's got to build the program back up. And they had made that program what it was many years ago, and then it disappeared for 20 years. Yeah. The auto shop looks cool. That's nice, but what do they got for welding equipment? What do they got for CNC equipment? You bringing in new CNC equipment, bringing in some manual work, and it's like, these kids need to learn at a young age how enjoyable it is working with their hands. And many people love working with their hands, and this is a great industry to do it in. So.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think one of the areas, too, that we've heard from people, almost all of us came out of some level of working with their hands, I went to a vocational high school, and your experiences, you've gone through and you started getting that passion that you have for the industry. I think the one thing that Tool and Die, one of the big problems that we struggle with is the size of it. Electricians are needed everywhere. Plumbers are needed everywhere. Tool and Die, it's a very much a smaller, and unfortunately, since we started offshoring the tooling, it became a much more smaller. Not only did you lose companies, but even within companies, you went from a 20-man shop down to a 10-man shop.
We heard that a lot yesterday. Yeah, and all these guys are saying, 15 years ago, we used to be 60-man shop, and now we're 20, 30 men now, and we're holding our own, but not having that opportunity to grow. And that does take that niche market, and wanting to be a part of that it is strong in certain areas, and that makes it difficult from a national level, right? But that's the whole point of getting that information regional, local to your own representatives. Yeah, making sure they hear what's going on, and we can find ways to maybe if it's not at a national level, they can do it regionally and get some monies sent into some of those school programs. Yeah, and change how the high schools get reimbursed from the states, right? Boy,
that's really a big one.
That college rate to pay for, is to pay for how much money you're getting coming in from the state is a big issue, right? Like, why can't apprenticeship programs be a part of that? Why? That'd be a huge one. If all of a sudden these high schools start realizing that their funding doesn't change because they're putting kids into this trades or getting into apprenticeship programs, then they realize that, okay, that's good. Now we're not losing funding on our end, and they're more willing to commit to that because these are, and of course, not many farmers around anymore that want to just jump on and do that. So it's
yes, I agree, and it's a struggle, but you know what? There are opportunities, and we have to find. I think if you had heard Lori Harbour speak at last year's stamping conference, one of the things that she mentioned was understanding your swim lane. Because don't just go out there and just scray and hope for work. It has to be the right work,
right?
And being selective, and that's where we really we have to be smarter.
Yeah,
not just busy.
Not just busy, right? Right. I think that was a big part of the conversation yesterday too. Was there's a lot of a lot of quoting going on, a lot of repeating quotes. We're doing a lot of work, and we're having to go find more work
Yes.
to fill in those blanks because nothing's happening. People aren't pulling those orders in yet. They're waiting on them there. And so they are getting out of their swim lane.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you start losing that profitability. Whereas you're not as experienced in that, is not as strong in that area, but you have to diversify.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
you know, and that's difficult at times, but you know, you gotta, if you can stay close to your swim lane as possible and work around the edges, maybe you'll get a pull after work while we're waiting for some of those things to drop, but
Right.
it's tough sometimes.
Yep. Well, this has been the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast live at FABTECH 2025 here on the show floor. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you all very much.